Welcome back to Raising Real Estate Standards. Today is our year-end episode, and we're going to do something a little special today. So throughout the past year, we've explored how top professionals are adapting and thriving in an evolving market. Not by simply riding market waves, but by fundamentally elevating their approach to real estate.
Yeah, today we're going to bring back some of those impactful moments from conversations with ourselves and other industry leaders who were proving that success comes from the intersection of systematic business practices, unwavering professional standards, and genuine client services. Whether you're focusing on building a stronger business, implementing new technologies, or just developing your leadership skills, these highlights showcase practical strategies that have generated real results.
Yeah, as you listen, you'll hear how embracing change while maintaining core professional values isn't just about survival. It's about setting new standards for what clients can expect from real estate professionals. Let's take a look.
In episode 1 earlier this year, we had Wayne Frederick on, and we were talking about the new normal as the market was shifting. And he had a lot of good things to say about that. Why don't we listen in?
The number one thing I think every agent should do.
We're going to start at the top.
Business page.
We're starting at the top. I'm going to just enter. So you're jumping right in at number 1. Not work your way up. You're going to go, this is what you need to do. We're feeding to you up front.
I can go the other way, but it's not going to make any sense.
Absolutely. We want to keep people hooked for the entire podcast, but no, let's start with number 1.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're going to call this number 1, but it's not the number 1 thing. Okay. But number 1 is Google Business Page. It is, with the work I do across the country, it is very obvious that absent a relationship with a realtor, a potential seller is going to Google now. Okay. So there's some steps to this. Number 1, you have to get a Google Business Page. If you don't know how to get a Google Business Page, literally Google Business Page, and it'll take you to a setup page and you start the process. Okay. They've made it really easy. But that's not enough, just having a Google Business Page. The second thing is you have to become Google verified. That is a process. That's how you get the infamous green check mark that Google has checked you out and you're good. Once you do that, then you can play the local service ad game, and that's where the revenue is. This is basically Google saying, you want your phone to ring? We will make your phone ring. But we have to make sure that you're really who you say you are and that you do a good job. So once you have the green check mark, you can explore Google local service ads. Yes, you are going to be paying for leads, but the spend in relation to the other ways that people are spending money is much, much less. And it's all, I shouldn't say all, the vast majority of these are listing leads. Okay. Now, once you've done that, here's the 3 things you have to do. Number 1, you have to get 2 new reviews a week, or Google will tumble you back down their ratings. Number 2, you have to answer the phone every time it rings, or Google will tumble you. And number 3, you have to go into the back end and let Google know what happened to the lead. If you don't do those, they will tumble you in the ranking. Okay. But because I'm seeing it so much, and I've got some clients that started Google Play 6 months ago. I have one client, they did 15 listing side closed transactions in 6 months, strictly off of Google local service ads. It's a thing. And I would also say, Mark, that these are not issues for 2024. This is the new real estate sales market.
Yep.
It's happened in every other industry. We were able to stall it off somehow for a long time, but it's here. And this is not a blip that's going to go back to, I hear so many people now saying, I'm waiting for things to get back to normal. This is normal. You have to be better than you've ever had to be. Mailing it in is not going to cut it anymore.
Nope.
So for those people that are willing to step up, it's going to be a great year, not only in 24, but beyond.
In episode 2, we jumped into investment real estate, where we talked a little bit more about investing into your real estate that you have. You don't want to be a slumlord. Let's check it out.
Rental real estate is a phenomenal way to build wealth, a phenomenal way to build cash flow long term, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, you're not going to get to long-term. You don't get to long-term gains if you don't take care of your property. Mm-hmm. If you don't set aside funds or you don't have the money to keep your property in good shape, you will not get to long-term gains. You will literally just spin your wheels making a little bit, and while you're making just a little bit, you're pissing off a lot of good tenants because they're living in your property thinking it's going to be a good property, and you haven't taken enough time to invest into your property, enough money to invest in your property to make it good for them, to make it a good experience. And that in turn will cause more turnover, which causes vacancy, which causes you not to be able to make money long term. And that is one of the biggest frustrations as property management owners, is that we've got a number. There's a number of investors out there who got into this in the last 5 years and have not invested into their properties. They have basically taken. They've looked at their properties as a debit card, and all they have been doing is taking money out, taking money out, taking money out, and they have not put any money into their asset, into their bank. And you have to put deposits in to be able to make withdrawals. If you just continually to take, it will literally wither away, and you won't be able to take anymore. And right now, a lot of the people that have taken are experiencing extreme discomfort when their tenants move out, and they're looking at a property that needs to be rehabbed, and we're rehabbing them in today's dollars and today's cost. When I bought them in 5 years ago money, I bought this property 5 years ago and I paid $60,000 for it, and it cost me $3,000 to get it ready for rehab. And now, to get it ready for rehab, it may be $15,000, $20,000 to do the same things that I was doing for $3,000 to $5,000 previously.
But the property has appreciated over that time as well, so the values are there. So it makes sense from that standpoint.
It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to a lot of investors because all they're seeing is their money.
Yeah.
While it has appreciated, a lot of investors haven't cashed or not taken that cash out or whatever. They're just seeing it's costing them right now an extraordinary amount of money compared to what it cost them originally. And they're confused and they're frustrated, and it's important to know that in order to see this long-term game, you have to be doing these things all along. You can't just Band-Aid certain things because it costs less money. So many people who are good people, when you take away their real estate and you take away their business practices, are really good people, but they have become slumlords, and they have positioned their business in a way that is not in congruence with who they are, but it is absolutely in congruence with how they manage their business, and it's sad.
Yeah, they get to that point because of making bad decisions. Let's just call it what it is, and maybe they know, maybe they don't. But like you said to begin with, as cash flow starts coming in on these properties, you've got to set aside some money to take care of any maintenance issues that you're going to have to deal with. Let's be honest. I mean, you're going to have HVACs go out. You're going to have roofing issues. You're going to have flooring issues. And I'm bringing up some bigger things that you're going to have for you to understand. It's going to take more than 1 month's rent to pay for some of this stuff. And you've got to set that stuff aside. You've got to know this stuff's going to happen. Otherwise, you're going to put a Band-Aid on everything. And when you put Band-Aids on stuff, it can break really, really quick and go downhill.
And most often, all the Band-Aids go bad at the same time. Mm-hmm. When you replace an HVAC system, you're probably replacing a water heater, and you're probably going to have a roof in the next little bit. And all these things that you've kind of limped along and you haven't put strategies in place to capitally invest in your property, they all come to at the same time, because eventually your house or the property can become inhabitable, and then it's just a sunk asset, and then it's just not earning any money.
Yeah.
And so it's important to put those plans in place, those capital investment plans in place, and be actively involved in your properties. Maybe not actively on the day-to-day, but actively knowing what they are, what's going on with them, what do they look like. So many people that we're in business with on the property management side, and it is. Property managers provide a convenience and a service that is invaluable, handling a lot of the stuff that people couldn't handle on mass scale, dealing with all the issues. However, it doesn't abdicate the owner's responsibility for knowing what's going on with their property. It's important for them to know, the roof looks like crap, or the things that need to be done. You need to know these things. You need to know about your asset, or you're going to get bit. So in episode 3, we talked about how top-performing agents are doing things that non-performing agents are not willing to do. And some of those are just doing the normal things at a much higher level and getting a lot better results. Let's take a listen. We've got an agent in our office, a seasoned agent, phenomenal agent who has a great business, but came to me and was looking to do something a little bit different, trying to up her game. And she was like, well, what can I do? Well, guys, I want to point you back to a previous podcast that we did on the blue ocean strategy. And if you have not delved into that, I encourage you to. I have encouraged this agent to take advantage of the blue ocean strategy. And so I encouraged her to film a video. She had a buyer that had a specific need in a specific subdivision in our area, and there was nothing for sale. So I said, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to prepare a letter. I've got the letter. Boom. Gave her the letter. And then I said, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to film a video on your phone, and you're going to ask the people who open up your letter for help. If you are looking to sell your house, these are what I'm looking for. I've got specific criteria, and there's going to be a little QR code on the letter. They're going to scan it with their phone. They're going to watch you. Easy peasy, not difficult. Completely set her up and put her out of her comfort zone. It was a scary thing. This is not an agent who's ever done video, and so it was a scary thought process. She did it. She got out of her comfort zone. She did it. She sent the letter out, recorded the crappy video on her phone, and in less than 2 weeks, you know what that led to? It led to 5 contacts, 2 listing appointments, a listing under contract that she double-ended herself, that she sold to her buyer. Whoa. Mm-hmm. Probably spent $40 in some postage and about 20 minutes recording a video. Guys, take action. Action leads to success. Action leads to putting dollars in your pocket. But more importantly, action leads to more action because you've gotten over that fear of doing something different. And people always ask, what really separates the top from the bottom? It's not much. It's not rocket science. It's not this secret sauce, this fancy plan. No, it's the willingness to do things consistently that other people won't. The willingness to just be uncomfortable, to embrace that piece, and I can't encourage people enough to get uncomfortable because it's in that discomfort that growth happens, and it's in that discomfort that progress is made. Right now is a phenomenal time for real estate agents to get uncomfortable and do a little bit more, because right now the market is gearing up for growth that we have not seen in a year or so. It's geared up for professionals to grab market share, the professional to get the extra business. And the way you do that is doing something different than everybody else around you.
Yeah, in episode 4, I brought in Doug Fincannon, and we talked about implementing operating systems into your real estate business and how this can help really keep the whirlwind from bringing you down. It would probably be a good system to have if you're working with a coach, because I know a lot of us can have our own personal accountability, but sometimes discipline tends to wane a little bit. So if you have a coach, it'd probably just be a really good addition to that relationship there. All right, so I'm a real estate agent. I don't track any of this stuff. I'm hearing this and I'm like, man, I could really make my business better. How do I start? Where do I go? Where do I start with this? How do I find more information about these strategic operating systems, and then how much does it cost me? Because at the end of the day, real estate agents really are focused on the expense when it comes to this in their business.
Yeah, so there's actually good news there. Accessing the systems themselves, even the software that's going to support it, it's not a huge investment. So whether you're using something like Traction or scaling up, you can go and buy the books. You can go to the YouTubes. You have right at your ready fingertip there to get information on that. The books themselves, you might spend $50 on the books, and you can start looking and investigating it that way. If there's going to be any real expense, it's going to be as if you actually bring in a specialty coach that's going to help you implement it if you have a little bit more complex situation. Probably what you need to do, though, is have somebody who's going to hold you accountable for doing it. One thing to go and read the book, fall in love with the system, and then the biggest problem I find is the whirlwind, the phone calls, the emails. Oh, the closing has been delayed because the inspection didn't get there's an issue with the mortgage. So you start dealing with the whirlwind, and you're not dedicating the time to think about the future because the immediate today, this week, is just demanding so much. And so you've got to be really focused on setting your calendar on implementing it, using it, and reflecting on it. You've got to control your whirlwind, and you have to be able to define what success looks like in the future. And once you define that, you have to have something that's going to measure and help you gain traction towards that ideal state down the road that you want to work to. And so the system to me is critical in doing that, being committed to doing it. Again, I'll say it, your greatest enemy to a strategic plan is the whirlwind. You're just the demands that you have on, so you have to be disciplined enough to spend calendar time to think and assess. But I think what you find is that you'll get a rhythm, you'll get better. It's a skill, it's like a muscle. You got to go and exercise it, you'll get better. Probably having somebody else to talk to who's doing a similar system. So there's a lot of community around these systems that you can go and get information on. You need accountability, though, because the whirlwind is so strong it's going to pull you away. But I think if you commit yourself to doing a simple strategic plan, you're going to find benefit to it in the long run. I think your customer is going to find benefit from it. Because if I'm trying to serve in your world, as I understand it, somebody trying to buy a $2 million home or sell a $2 million home versus selling a $150,000 home, there are some of the same transactions and processes that are going to be at play, but there's a lot of differences in those scenarios. And so can I be all things to all people? Maybe. But likely, if I'm going to focus on smaller homes, I got to have different systems and processes in place than if I'm doing a $1 million or $2 million home. And defining what success looks like in that is going to be really important.
Episode 5, Brian, you and I talked about how am I going to get paid? And that's we dove into the difference between that amateur agent and that professional agent. Let's listen in. And back to the whole crux of this is how am I as a buyer agent going to get paid? You're going to provide value. You're going to stop. There's no crazy thing that we're going to put in place. You're going to start providing. We have been beating this drum for 2 years, 3 years. It's about providing value. In this market, professionals are going to get paid. Amateurs are going to find another job.
And we're already seeing that.
100%. Professionals will get paid. Amateurs are going to go do something else because they can't afford to do it. It's all about articulating your value to your buyer. If you as a buyer agent feel that your value is X, well, then you charge X and you articulate it to them. And for the most part, they'll be willing to compensate you if and where a potential listing falls short of what you think your value is, right? And so it's important as buyer agents that you are looking into what you are doing and you are crafting your conversation with your clients that highlights what you're going to do for them. It's more than just opening doors. If you are just going to open doors and you have access to information, guess what? They have access to information. They have access to the ability to open a door. If that's what your value is, then you are going to be the Uber of real estate agents, right? And I think that that's kind of where the industry's headed. I really do.
In episode 6, we talked about how the markets were shifting and how we had to shift our perspectives. Let's take a look at what we talked about.
What I'm saying for those that have rental property, be cognizant of the environment that you're in. Know what you're in. And, for so long, I hate to say this, in a rental property, there are multiple stakeholders. There are the property owner, there's property management companies, there are tenants. And for so long, the tenants were given the bottom of the barrel treatment. They, because there were 15 of them lined up ready to take their place and pay more than what they were paying. Well, that's not the market we're in. So it's important that you take care of your tenants, that you are providing them things that make them comfortable, things that they're excited to want to stay. Because let's look at the numbers. On average right now, to turn a property and put a new tenant in place, the rent price on average is ticking down roughly around 5%. So you as a property owner will lose roughly 5% in rent income, not to mention the maintenance and the turn costs, just literally rent income when you turn a property right now in today's market. But if you keep a tenant, rates are on average going up around 2%. Not 5, 10%, but on average, they're still going up on tenants that you keep. So if you keep a tenant happy, you can continue to raise your income level, maybe not at the rate that you were previously, but that spread is a 7% spread versus keeping versus losing. So it's important in today's time that we talk about that. That Band-Aid that you put in place, the things that you didn't do, the benefits that you provided your tenants need to be enhanced in order to maximize your return on your investment. It's important to shift our perspective. It's important to understand that the way we did things yesterday might not be the best and most advantageous way to do them today. Maybe we need to shift our ideas. And for that, it's important to educate yourself. It's important to engage outside your normal, typical ways of living. If you are still operating and having the same conversations in the same bubbles that you've always been, maybe go have some different conversations with some different people to expand your understanding of what's going on so that you can then better educate. Guess what happens when that happens? When you educate yourself and you are the person that is coming to the table to provide information that is valuable for clients, valuable for people, to help them make decisions. You know what ultimately happens? You get paid. We've talked about this on our last episode. How am I going to get paid? You're going to get paid by bringing value. And bringing value is garnered by educating yourself, being out there and in the know of what's going on, and being able to articulate that information in a way that the person on the other end can consume it and then make good decisions with that information.
Yeah, and the best way to add value in times of changing markets is understanding how to find solutions to problems. Because it's back to the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people you hear, agents, market's changing. What am I going to do? What can I do, Mark? What can I do, Mark? Investors, market's changing. Property manager, hey, Mr. Property Manager, what can I do? I'm not making the money that I was making before. Give solutions. There are solutions to every issue out there. You may be the first one that comes up with it.
Yep.
That's called innovation. But when you do, like Mark said, you will get paid.
And very importantly, don't do what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is doing the same thing. In a changing environment, somebody's wrong. And typically, most everybody is wrong during shifting times. They just have not discovered it and uncovered a way to do things a little bit differently. Don't be afraid to be different than every single person out there when you're trying to solve problems. In episode 7, Not only did we upgrade our lighting, as you can see, but we also talked about staying on brand and how we can make sure that the consumer experiences what we want them to feel. Let's listen in. And also important when you're in our business, because the transactions and the business comes at us in all aspects at all times. And a lot of times we're in public places when we're dealing with transactions, right? You know, someone calls us, we're sitting at a baseball game, or we're sitting at the pool, or wherever it is, and you're going to be surrounded by people, and you're going to get a phone call, and you're going to have to deal with it. And a lot of times negativity comes up in our world. We're having to, we're here to solve problems, and problem has just been presented with us. So how you talk on the phone during the transaction out in public is being heard and received by those that are around you. And if they perceive you as professional, calm, cool, and collective, like you know what's going on, you've got an answer, nothing's going to rattle this person. They've got it taken care of. They've solved the problem. Guess what? Guess what just happened? You just sold yourself without having any conversation with those around you. You just basically raised your hand and said, "Guess what, guys? I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. Watch me go to work. And if you need anything, all you have to do is pick up the phone call by solving a problem appropriately." And then when you hang up the phone, it doesn't become a bitch fest. It doesn't become a venting of, "Oh, this person is an idiot. You won't believe what happened. These people have no idea what they're doing. Oh my gosh." Stop that crap. Stop it.
Yes, we need to have the stuff in a timely manner. And that's probably the key term we need to be focused on, is a timely manner. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be the agent on the one side that is like, "I need this and I need this yesterday. I need this 5 minutes ago." When, you're putting that undue stress on someone else. Now, again, like I said, that doesn't mean, "Hey, I'm cutting my business off, leave me alone," because there's still business to be had. Otherwise, you're not doing your customer the service that they deserve. But just have that grace with that agent on the other side.
I think that's phenomenal advice. Grace is probably one of the virtues that is as scarce of a virtue in our business, because a lot of us are self-absorbed into what we're dealing with and what is affecting us and our clients only. Understand there's another side. There's a whole nother set of life circumstances, and it's important to make sure that you put yourself in their position. And so I think it's also important to communicate. Communicate with your other agents as to what's going on. Because if you're not communicating, guess what? They're making decisions and assumptions
yep.
in that silence of you not having communication with them that paints you and your client in a bad picture. So have a conversation with them about what's going on. "Hey, I'm traveling. I'm going to be out of pocket for the next 15 hours because I'm going to be on a plane. However, these are some of the ways that you can get in touch with me, and then as soon as I get to a point, I will be reaching out." Have those conversations. Be upfront with them about what's going on, and then at the same token, when you have asked for grace on their behalf, give it back to them. Just because if you took 10 hours to respond to something, don't expect something to come back to you immediately, because they might not have been sitting there waiting on it.
Yep.
So this is a two-way street. Communication, grace, it goes both ways. It makes for a much better situation. In episode 8, we brought in Greensboro Regional Realtors Association President Mary Beth Powell, and we really dug into leadership, and more importantly, what servant leadership looks like. Have a listen.
There's a lot of information coming at us, and so my phrase is to calm down, number one, and be relevant, because now is our time to kind of focus on the information that we need. Because, when all this noise is going around, at the end of the day, our ultimate allegiance is to our client. And they don't want to hear nor see our reaction to anything, really. That's not our job. What our job is to educate them and to stay calm and be kind about it, because what we have to keep in mind is they don't care whether NAR is imposing new rules or changing our forms or or any of the things that we see as a big deal, that's not the big deal to them. The big deal to them is that they're having to move, or they've been relocated, or they're going through a divorce, or they've lost somebody in their family. And so it is our ultimate goal to educate ourselves behind the scenes so it becomes more seamless to them, because the only thing they care about is making this as smooth and easy as possible as it can be for them. And it's our job, not their job, it's our job to understand and educate ourselves and keep our focus on our task at hand. You know, it always I get embarrassed for myself because I always take for granted, or I've seen a lot of agents, and myself included, that think that that clients are in the same thing. They're worked up about the same things that we are. They're not. They have their own lives. They have their own jobs. I've become very intentional about what I do and what I choose to do. And so I've started acting a little bit more back to the medical thing, like a triage nurse. And you know, instead of kind of going about my day putting on fires and reacting, I put those things in place first. I put my daughters first. And, you know, I put the immediate needs. My work is very important. My community, my obligations to GRA are very important to me because I want to be where I'm supposed to be or help where I can. So I put the things, even on a daily basis, where they have to be, I place them. Working out's important to me for my, not just physical, but mental. That's my mental break. And so those things I put just like an appointment, and it's time blocking at its core. Like if I need to eat lunch, or if I need to make a phone call that I know that's going to take 20 minutes, I put it down just like an appointment, and I set an alarm in my phone. Then what I do from there is I fill in the extra spaces, because we as real estate agents, we wake up in the morning with a plan, and then you look at your day and you're like, if you let it, nothing gets checked off.
No doubt.
Nothing gets checked off, because there's no way to anticipate what can come up in your day, because that's the nature of real estate is the change and the things that can kind of go north or south during the day, and of course those things you have to react to.
Ultimately, it's important for us as agents to not practice on our clients. Go get the information. Don't, because let me tell you right now, most of the times, not most of the times, a lot of the times, you're going to be dealing with people who are very financially savvy, who understand and they have their perspective of what's going on in the world. And if you come at it without having given yourself enough time to educate yourself, you come off as a amateur.
Yes.
And that is one of the biggest pet peeves of mine, is there are a lot of amateurs in our industry. And there needs to be more professionals. There needs to be more dedication to educating yourself what's going on, forming an opinion that is thoughtful,
yes,
understanding, and that you can back up with facts or reasoning, and being able to have good conversations, not that is that ultimately puts your client at ease, because, as you said before, their stresses are theirs. Their stresses are their kid that is sick, or their mom that is down their throat, or whatever it may be. Their stresses are their stresses, and our job is to de-stress something that aren't really theirs.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, we all can do, and we all should be doing the, you know, our homework on stats and understanding the latest. Whether it's a podcast or whether it's a book, it's hard for a book to stay relevant because things change so quickly. But, you know, a lot of the base, the core principles are there. You know, whatever new, and it doesn't really matter what clicks with what agent, but it is a part of your job. Our job, is not to just be transactional, but to be knowledgeable and be relational with these clients. And we have to be able to answer the questions, and a lot of people see this as a negative thing, and this is kind of an opportunity or a checkpoint for us to do what we should have been doing all along, is the way I see it. There's not going to be much room for amateurs over the next few years, and if you feel, I feel like an amateur some days, but if you feel like that, now is your opportunity to kind of separate yourself from that, because I truly think that there are agents out there that feel that they're going to keep moving forward without any change to their business.
In episode 9, Mark brought in Jeremy Collins, where they focused on technology in your business and how the industry is evolving with it. Let's take a look.
One of my first things I do, and agents really cringe when I start doing it, but we pull up their database, we do an extract of it, and then we look and see when was the last time they touched the people. And, it's kind of scary because we just did one the other day. The agent had been in business almost 17 years. They thought they had everything down. They thought their business was running huge. And we went through, and I just noted, I think we pulled out like 300 people that had not been touched in over 2 years. And I was like, okay, let's implement. So we took those 300 people, we set up a system to start touching just them specifically, all right, over the next 30 days. And then he was blown away when there's like 8 or 9 of those people started clicking on properties from those emails we're sending them. And these are 300 people that he hadn't touched in years. And now he ended up picking up 2 clients in 30 days just from a retouch. And I think, it's just hard, right? It's hard to keep continually reaching out to these people all the time unless there is a system in place. And guys, with AI now, it's unbelievable. If you take the time to set it up right, like for example, the other day I helped an agent, we imported, I think it was like 150 emails that he had wrote. We input those into an AI program. And now, before he writes an email, it prompts him, do you want AI to look at this and see if we can help you with it? And so it literally took all those emails he wrote in the past, and now he's putting his own voice to it. And these emails, he's loving it. He said, these emails are better than I could ever write. And in my voice.
In his voice.
And so I thought that was the coolest thing ever. These guys are starting to understand that small pieces will make huge differences in the long run. And he told me he will get anywhere from an hour to 2 hours back of his day just because of that. These email programs that help him write these emails. And I'm like, okay, no brainer, right?
No doubt. Most people, when you use words like processes and automation and AI or whatever, people, a lot of, old school folks, or not even old school folks, people that just don't understand it, think that that's going to strip your authenticity out of it. And it's not. It really isn't. You're able to develop, and technology has gotten to the point where it is really good, and you're able to control a lot of this, that you are able to portray your authenticity sometimes better than if it wasn't there. And so as we're delving down to this, that's one of the things that when I'm sitting down across from doing a one-on-one coaching with someone, I use the word process and systems all the time, and the systems are there because you intentionally set them up. When you sit there and you plan it and you put it out, and why is it there? Let's just talk about our sphere of influence. Take the pulling or lead generation piece out of it for a second. I've got a core group of people that I want to market to, and I want them to first know that I know them, I like them, and that I care about them, and they're important to me. Well, if you have 300 people that you literally love and you know them really well, you can't manage to let them know you love them and you care about them by just happenstance. You have to have the systems in place to put those triggers in point to let them know that. So it's important that even if you're not in this generating of lead stuff where you're trying to pull cold stuff out, this is also your sphere. It's everything, and putting those things in place and doing it in a way that enhances or showcases your authenticity is phenomenal. And it's a phenomenal way. Once you do it, you're able to set it up, and then guess what you get back in phenomenal, massive portions is your time. You get so much time back when you set up those systems.
In episode 10, we brought in our friend Lori Edwards from Raleigh, where she came and shared a bunch of her real estate wisdom with us. Let's take a look.
I'm fortunate that I was raised with a growth mindset. I was raised with here's a struggle, here's an issue, and what are we going to do about it? Not, bury your head in the sand. So that growth mindset, it's a challenge. Like, we have been faced with a new challenge. The recession 11, 12 years ago, that was a challenge. People had to learn a new way of doing things. And that's what we're doing right now. We're learning a new way. And, I have agents come to me all the time, but gosh, that's so much work. Yeah, it's so much work. We get paid to work. And so what I am working on right now, what my thoughts are on the challenge is, how can I automate things? How can I put new processes, again, going back to that, developing processes, how can I put those in effect so that the work is manageable? Yes, it is going to be more work with the commission structure coming out of our MLS. It's just going to be more work, but it's a challenge that in a lot of ways I welcome, because it's going to make me a better professional. The more I learn, the more I put a new process in place, the better professional I'm going to become in this industry. Right now, what I tell my buyers, particularly ones that are sitting on the fence or that are kind of concerned, you can pay the higher interest rate now, or you can pay the higher price later. It's if you're renting, that's a black hole. You're putting away money. You're not gaining any equity when you're renting, and you have to have a place to live. So let's balance that out with, I have to have a place to live. So I'm either going to rent it or I'm going to own it. Or if you're lucky enough, like a parent will let you move in to save up. But you have to have a place to live. So you're already spending money on a place to live. So it's kind of looking at the numbers sometimes. I will actually sometimes sit, I'm a data person. I like when you can make things very clear in black and white for people. Run the numbers. What does that rent look like every month? And what after a year have you put in, and what do you have in return? So most of my folks who are committed to buying, there are definitely people who have stepped back from buying more in my market because they can't find what they want to buy, so they can't sell what they have because what they want to buy isn't out there, or it's more expensive.
I was going to ask, is it an affordability issue?
Yeah, and it's hard to go from the mortgage payment you have to a new mortgage payment that's $2,000 more. That's money at my point in life that the folks I work with a lot of times can't travel with or do something significant for their children. And so getting people off the fence is just kind of finding, I'm driving to areas a little further away. So you thought you wanted to be in a central area. Well, that area, you can't get what you want. Or maybe you take a smaller house and build equity in a smaller house because it's in the area you want to be. There's sacrifices, and there's no perfection in this. And really just kind of helping people, figure that out, what their comfort level is. But ultimately, you can only afford what you can afford or what you're willing to spend. And so we have to work within those confines. One last thing, slow down. And maybe that's because I spin you can tell I talk very fast, and my entire orbit spins very fast. That's just kind of the way I'm wired. And slow down. The process gets tricky. Slow down. You don't have to have all the answers. Slow down and find solutions. Anytime you can slow the process down, slow yourself down, I feel like you can gain more clarity and serve your clients better.
In episode 11, Brian and I dug into pricing changes and how that's important in a shifting market. Let's listen in.
Some of the best things you can do as a real estate agent is hone your communication skills. We talked about it with communicating, through navigating through these conversations of compensation with a transaction. But also, again, and I've watched agents, and we've been in the business long enough to know, there are tough conversations you have to have with your clients. Yeah. But for so long, it wasn't that hard. Everything was set. You weren't reducing a lot of prices, and now you are. And now the agents have to get back to, again, honing in this skill, not being scared to have this conversation.
I'm going to agree and disagree with you for a second. Okay. I think for a while, the agents in general were having tough conversations with their clients, just not listing clients. Right. So we've got a skill set that we've got. For agents went in and were having tough conversations with their buyer clients saying, listen, This is a market that you've got to, if you really want to buy a house, you've got to get serious with. Well, now we're kind of on the reverse where the sellers need to have that tough conversation of, if you really want to sell your house, these are the things, we're not in that market that you were in before. Okay. Your house that is disheveled and you haven't done any maintenance and you're wanting to sell it for above what anything is ever sold for is not right now. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So it's just honing in and developing the skill sets and the words that you're going to be able to articulate to your clients, and I think that the market has forced us to have to learn that. I posted this previously, and I think this is one of the biggest things that agents are learning, unfortunately the hard way, is pricing your home is probably the most important thing in today's market, because if you overprice your home right now, it's going to sit, and you're going to lose way more than if you would have priced it appropriately, which we've always known that. You've been in the business long enough. You price it appropriately, you're going to make more money than if you overprice it, because if it sits, the consumer is going to be like, well, what's wrong with it? And it's going to go past that norm, that appropriate price is going to break through that and get to a lower point. So pricing is super important.
So the year this year didn't go exactly like we thought it was going to, and sometimes you have to make changes. And in episode 12, we talked about these skills that you need for an unbalanced market. Let's take a look.
Us as agents, it's important for us to set expectations, and I'm going to stop there. With ourselves first, you need to look into the mirror and set an expectation of what is actually going on in the market and what the reality is of when you go to sell a home or you're a buyer's agent. And once you have to do research. You have to know the market. You can't just walk into there just feeling a feeling of whatever based on how I've done things in the past 2 years. No, look and understand the market and then set a perspective of what should happen with this property. If I price it appropriately, the market's saying it's going to sell in 50 to 60 days. Well, on day 14, when your client calls and says, oh my gosh, it's not selling, what's going on? Well, don't set your hair afire along with them.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's got to be the cool, calm, and collective person, and it's you that needs to do that. And so set the perspective with yourself of what it should be, and then when you do that, you need to turn around and set that same expectation with your clients so that they don't go set their hair afire and they come at you again in 14 days and then think, why is the world falling apart? Guys, it's about knowing your market. It's about understanding, the number of buyers that are in it, the number of homes that are for sale, and how many homes are selling at a particular point in time. If you don't have that information, you're basically, pulling from, shooting from your hip pocket without even looking to see what's going on in the market. And ultimately, what does that mean? And what does the client feel when that happens? They feel anxiety. They feel, not necessarily given the best advice. And ultimately, you as an agent look like an amateur. Guys, if whatever you're doing, whatever has worked in the past, double down on it. Be consistent. Know your market. And, I really do think the end of this year of 2024, the tail end of this and the start of 2025 is going to be a really, really good year. The wind is at your back from a financial situation, from a getting through the really nasty and just unstable parts that go through with an election. And once we get through that, I think you're going to find that the things kind of turn a little bit, where the wind's been in our face for so long with a high interest rate market. Things are going to be in a downward rate environment with a lot of other good positive things. Make sure you're doing the right things consistently and take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's time to position yourself, and maybe we'll talk about that next time.
We brought in Brad Thomas, a mortgage lender, in episode 13, and we dove into all the intricacies about mortgages, but more importantly, how relationships between mortgage lenders and real estate agents are super important. Take a look. The big thing is there's a lot of different options out there. There is, very few of those vanilla buyers that are, W-2 employee with 800 credit scores.
Very few.
And ready to buy with 20% down, and it just fit that mold. Most folks are a little bit different, have some nuances that need to be worked with, and so it's important when you're working with folks, knowing that you've got complex buyers, because we live in a complex world these days, especially with the gig economy and a lot of people doing a lot of different things where income streams are coming from various different places. It's important that you have someone who has a good amount of knowledge and has the ability to decipher these complex things and bring it down and be able to help a larger number of people. I see a lot of times when you have new folks into the business, they're just ignorant to a lot of how do I make this work. Whereas the experienced folks that have been doing this a while have seen a lot,
Have seen it.
and they've done a lot. They have skinned their knees, they have bumped their heads, but they know how to navigate to be able to figure out how to make it work in a situation that it should work. Not making it work for situations that should not work, but finding those situations that should work and be able to figure out how to get there. How do you see real estate agents and mortgage lenders now working together versus 15 years ago, and what are some ways that real estate agents and mortgage lenders can work together better to make this process as easy and as removal of stress on the consumers as humanly possible?
To me, communication between real estate agent and lender is always key.
Yeah.
If we're on the same page, we can give good advice to the buyer. We can work out solutions. It's always the key to a smooth transaction, is having a good team of people working together. That's one thing that in the past, take the COVID times, for example, when things were just out of control. There were a lot of real estate agents that I closed loans with and just never had the time to talk to them very much.
Right.
And so, I think a good partnership between a realtor and a lender is critical. Obviously, getting someone pre-qualified up front before you show them property, critical, so that you're not looking at property that they can't qualify for or that they can't afford or that they're not comfortable with the payment. And communicating those two things between lender, real estate agent, so that we can give the best advice to the buyer.
All right, so cut through the minutia of communication is absolutely the key. Let's break that down a little bit. What does that look like? I mean, the term's been coined a number of times. Buyers are liars. People that are trying to do something, and it's not necessarily they're lying. They're trying to put their best foot forward. They're trying to show everybody that has, in their determination of whether they're going to get the deal done, information that may not be completely a fully written picture. But what does what are the those communication lines? I mean, we're getting pre-approved, but what else? What else can we do as agents to be on the lookout for, to try to keen into that could help?
I mean, one thing that I would say is for real estate agents to prepare their buyers with an idea of what type of documentation they're going to need.
That's a great idea.
One thing for me that is a huge help when I'm pre-qualifying someone is looking at their income documents. It's addressed differently when it's variable versus when it's not variable.
Yeah.
For example, I've got a client right now who has been working for a grocery store distributor for about 1.5 years. Up until 2 months ago, he had his first position with this grocery store. And in that position, his hours were all over the place. 30, 32, 28, 29. He just got a promotion 2 months ago. Now he's working consistently 40 hours a week and probably 10, 12 hours overtime. And so now I can rely on that 40 hours a week and use that as qualifying. And I don't need to average it because he's in a new position.
There was a qualifying change.
I have to show when he received that new position. But then underwriting, instead of averaging his income over the 1.5 years that he's been there, they will use the 40 hours a week that he's currently working.
Cool.
Because it's a new position.
Cool. And it's things like that experienced LOs are able to do for you. And
Real estate's the school of hard knocks, man.
No doubt.
You know that.
Yes.
There is no substitute for experience.
No, I've screwed up a lot.
We all have.
So to close out this season, we did something a little bit different as well. We brought in Carly Mann and the girls from Embellish Home Staging, who talked to us about the art of transformation and using home staging in your business. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Well, I love to use you guys too when I'm competing with new construction.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't have a model, then again, if you're looking at the exact same house that's brand new, you guys come into a used, quote unquote, used home that puts your stuff in it, they're going to gravitate towards yours.
Because a new one will look sterile and feel cold. It doesn't have a feeling. Like you're absolutely right on that.
Yes, because you have to have something to say, why would you buy a 2-year-old home when you can buy a brand new one that has a warranty and everything's brand new? So you've got to give them that feeling that they're not going to feel in that sterile brand new house. So I'd love to use you guys for that, for the same reason, especially when they're looking at photos and stuff like, well, let's just go see it,
Right.
Or maybe the agent might suggest, you know what, this one looks really cute. You might like it. Let's go see it while we're looking at this new construction. So, and there's different strategies that you can put around that. But I think that's another great space. Speaking of the comparing side by side to use full staging on. So I try to, as an agent going in, I'll describe to people, this is like putting your house, it's getting married. It's the bride.
Right.
When you go to get married, you're not going to wear the same makeup. You're not going to wear the same clothes you wear every day. We're going to step it up a notch because you're being put on parade. And that's what this house is doing. There's going to be lots of people coming through. So we're going to step it up a little level than what you normally do. And then also, when I do a walkthrough, there's 2 separate things for me too. It's picture ready and then showing ready.
Right.
So for photos, it's a little bit different. Like they'll actually do okay, here's what you're going to do for photos. We're going to remove usually more things.
Right.
Yes. But it's okay for these things to be back out for showings because when you're looking at a picture, it's like teeny tiny, 4x4 on a screen. It's really hard to see, especially if it's super cluttered. So that is definitely, I totally agree with taking lots of stuff out.
We had a job once, and there was a massive wall fireplace that went to the second story, and it was bookshelves running along the whole either side of the fireplace, and it was filled with beautiful books from a profession that would have beautiful books, right?
Yeah.
But they were so dark, and the house did not have a ton of can lights. So lamplight was what we were working with, but it was also because it went to the second story, and it wasn't there was not a lot of natural light coming in other places. So we were in there, and what we typically do in a situation like that is we'll take books and turn them around so that you don't see the spine, you see the pages, right? Because it's light and color.
Clever.
Right. Is it realistic? No, because you can't see what book
Nobody
you're trying
knows what book they're pulling out.
But it visually looks attractive. And we had the woman who was selling her house, her mother was in town, and she saw this and was horrified at what we were doing. I mean, there I am on a ladder.
She was on a humongous ladder, sitting on top of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I hate confrontation, so I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I just want to get out of here.
And this woman is like, what do you think that is? That looks terrible.
Well, she's screaming at her.
She's so mad at me. But you're right, in a photo, and I tried to explain that, and that's the other piece of it, is you have to try to get your seller to be prepared for getting outside of their comfort zone, because it's not going to be what they want or how they want to live, and we're touching all of their things, and and it's emotional, and it's just, it very often does not go well at some point or another when you're in there working with somebody's stuff. But in the end, she wrote us, the seller in the end wrote us a note and said, I can't tell you how incredible this looks. My daughter's boyfriend came over and said, this house looks so much better than it did before.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, just hope your mom's okay.
As we've heard throughout these highlights, success in today's real estate market comes down to 3 key actions. Implementing systematic approaches to your business, whether it's in your marketing, client follow-up, or property management, the professionals who are thriving aren't just working harder, they're working smarter with intentional systems and processes.
Yeah, we also dove into the need to invest in continuous education and professional development. The markets reward those who can articulate genuine value and navigate complex situations with expertise and grace. Finally, we walk through maintaining an unwavering focus on client outcomes, from proper pricing strategies to clear communication with all parties. Every action should center on delivering superior results for your clients.
These aren't just theoretical concepts. We've heard real examples of how the principles of generating success across different market conditions. Remember, raising real estate standards isn't about perfection. It's about consistent progress in how we serve our clients and conduct our business.
Yeah. Guys, we just want to thank you guys for joining us this year. We've seen ups and downs. We had an idea of what the market was going to look like at the beginning of the year. It didn't turn out that way. That's life. That's just how things go. But I think regardless of those things, we've uncovered a lot of tools that work in any and every market, and just being superior and raising your standards in real estate and in business in general is super important.
Yeah, and we want to thank all the people that we had on. Thank you guys out there listening. Next year is going to be a great year. We look forward to having you come back and listen. And remember, at the end of the day, our goal here is to raise real estate standards.
Yep, thanks.